Welcome to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel and the football show with myself, Peter Martin, Alan Ruff and Alison McConnell ahead of the new football season. Absolutely delighted that you could join us on the programme if you've got any opinion whatsoever as we get ready for the big kick-off, another Scottish Premiership season, and of course the lower leagues as well, all looking forward to achieving their ambitions. It's going to be a roller coaster ride of emotions, sometimes anger, sometimes elation, but hopefully in the company of our pundits you're going to enjoy not only opinion but lots of interviews, managers, players offering their opinion too, and of course we'll get the reaction from you on the results from your favourite team. So looking forward to it. I'm certainly looking forward to another season, hopefully with big crowds coming out as well, Rafi, although I have my doubts once we hit the winter.
Yeah, I mean, we always say, you know, why we're not looking at summer football, obviously with the World Cup in November. But yeah, the winter is always one that hits in. But I think at the beginning of the season, most fans love it. I'm
only saying I'm worried about the winter, Ruffy, because people's financial situation is going to become stark. I don't know if you know. Yeah. You obviously won't be affected by it from the house on the hill, but people are struggling to pay their bills.
Well, no, it will be interesting if you were to get a chance to get around the clubs and see the season tickets. You know, that would be a gauge of how many people have got money to go out there and buy a season ticket. I can't quote you on Partick Thistle where we are just now, but it'd be very, very interesting, because you're right, you know, people have got a lot of priorities, and you know, laying out that kind of money at the beginning of the season is a hard one.
Yeah, I'll tell you another thing, Alison. I mean, clubs will realise soon that their energy bills will be going through the roof. Yeah,
I think we spoke about this on Tuesday about the economic climate and the predictions that it will get worse before it gets any better, and I think football's a luxury. I think it's one of those things that if you're going to start looking at finances and where to make cuts, this is one of the places where you would do it.
Thank you very much to everyone for joining us. There's lots of people. Thanks to Mark, to Stephen, to Thomas Lee, Nicky Twig, Patrick Drum. There are so many people who've supported us over the course of last season and are back joining us this season. And I tell you, we've got some really good big news on the way as well on PLZ Soccer throughout the course of this season. There'll be lots more content that you can join in with and comment on. So thanks to each and every one of you for showing your support, and of course for the people who post messages, a lot of the 99% of them, a lot of people who just love their club and want to talk football, and we thank you for that. Okay, before we talk about the Scottish Premiership season, we've got to talk about last night. Motherwell were absolutely atrocious. It was an embarrassment, Ruffy.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you're associated with Motherwell, you know, in whatever way, it's a horrible, horrible morning to wake up to. You know, we all thought yesterday they'd have the quality to turn that around, but it wasn't evident last night. They haven't went forward at all. It's a poor result, not only for them but for Scottish football as well. You know, we keep talking about, you know, we get Rangers and Celtic in there, and we have another couple of teams get into Europe every year, and it's just one disappointment after the other. You know, and it's certainly have to seriously start looking at themselves to go into these tournaments.
Yeah, I thought they were totally and utterly inept. I mean, it was an absolute worldie of a goal from the boy Blaney for Sligo, and fair play to him. Great the way he executed that goal, and that just set them up. That lifted them. It was a tight pitch, as Motherwell would have expected. They knew all about it. They'd have done their homework. But there was nothing. They offered nothing. I mean, they had a goal chalked off, but other than that, I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it's a very worrying trend that's continued really since the turn of the year. I think the stats have been poor. I think many of them camouflaged just by the fact of where they finished. But I think it was a performance that was abject across both legs. I think you would expect so much more. I think especially when you're seeing the rewards this season for the coefficient improving so vastly, and Celtic, the league title winners, went straight into the group stages of the Champions League. I think you have to see results like this in context and how damaging they are, not just to the club and to the club's reputation, but also to the reputation of Scottish football as a whole, and how it sets us back again. We need clubs who go into Europe to be carrying the can for some time, to be making progress, and it's not beyond Motherwell to be competing against a team of that ilk. It really isn't, and I think I think it's desperately embarrassing.
Yeah, I just thought, I thought when they cancelled the press conference, I thought, okay, they're sacking the manager today. Obviously, they're saying that it was the journey back from Ireland, and they didn't do a press conference today, but I actually thought he would be gone, Ruffy. I don't like to see managers sacked, but managers know you live or die by your results. And 4 wins out of 23 since January 18th of last year there. I think this whole year for them has been... it's been poor. Motherwell fans are not in any way enamoured by what Graham Alexander has offered.
No, I think if they hadn't slipped into that European place, I don't think he'd have been there at the beginning of the season. I think obviously they've looked at the season as a whole. These stats you've just thrown out are just not acceptable, but he got them into Europe and they've got to take a step back and say, well, let's give him a chance. But they've given him a chance, but now he's on added pressure. Now he's on 2 or 3 games, I would say. He's got obviously a game at the weekend, but 2 or 3 defeats, and I don't think there's any way back for him. And it's unfortunate that they put themselves in that position, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, I'm looking at the whole situation. I have to say, this is not knee-jerk reaction to one result for Motherwell. This is an ongoing situation. There were 6 Scottish players either started or had a part to play in the debacle of last night, Alison. We see a number of Scottish players coming through. Some of them are cherry-picked by the English clubs. I keep harping on about the fact that if you cannot bring in more money from elsewhere to give these clubs the chance to invest more in their youth policy, invest more in maybe the odd little golden nugget or higher quality player, we're on a hiding to nothing. Only Celtic and Rangers can really, and to an extent Hearts, Hibs and Aberdeen, generate any kind of money that might give them a half decent chance of getting into group stages, but they're not doing it. The evidence over the last 20 years since 2000 is absolutely abysmal out with Celtic and Rangers.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think there was one season when Aberdeen were in the group stages too of the Europa League, and Celtic and Rangers were both in the Champions League, but I think overall the return is desperately poor, and I think it's not reflective of the standard of Scottish football. I think the clubs should be aiming to do significantly better. When you go through this time of year and you look back at results and teams that Scottish sides have faltered against, I think invariably there are question marks. There are sometimes you think, fair enough, you come up against a team with significantly better resources. That's not the case here, and it's not been the case in previous seasons either. I think last season's maybe something different. You look at St Johnstone coming up against Galatasaray, and right away you fear for them because you know the magnitude of the club and you know the difference there in terms of resources. That's not what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And I think you need clubs to accept a bit of responsibility for when they take a European place, that you need to be going and making an impact. You need to be going and trying to win a couple of games. Fair enough, you might not progress all the way through into the group stages, but you should be giving it a far better go than this. And if not, you really should be questioning how many European places you want, because it damages the overall coefficient when you have the points divided by 5 teams when you have a team that's going out at the first hurdle.
Yeah. I think when Hearts bank the money, it'll give them a chance again to, if we're talking about, you think there's going to be a huge chasm between first, second and then the rest. But if Hearts bank 3 million, again, I think that takes them again away from other clubs who will not have that spending power, because they've got Conference League, they've got that group stage, definitely going to be playing that. They'll get that money in. We need to find money from elsewhere, and I know some people get slightly hacked off with me talking about the fact that we're a shower of bickering people who, as if we're all drunk in a pub and we can see who we can land the first punch to. But that's why we can't get big money in, because nobody wants to come and see this backward country of chief executives and chairmen. They don't want to invest big money in it. You'll have to look at the Cinch deal. It's a joke.
It is, and fortunately that seems to have been sorted a wee bit, so maybe we can move forward and it maybe be easier to bring in companies like that. But you need investment, and once you get that investment, you have to be in a club who's very well run, and I agree with you 100% with Hearts. If Hearts get £3 million, they're going to spend it on their playing staff.
Yeah.
And because they're a very, very well run club.
And their season tickets are sold out.
And their fans are still putting money in. to get back to them, I can't understand the Motherwell situation. You know, as I said earlier, they got the money for David Turnbull. I think it was 2 million. They got a 2 million handout. I know it was for COVID, to see them through COVID. It's okay saying, oh, the pitch is magnificent. The Motherwell pitch is fantastic, but if you've not got a team playing on that pitch, what's the point?
Yeah.
You know, you've got to invest properly. The fans pay their money and they want to see not real quality coming in, but better quality than what they've got. But I don't think Motherwell's done that.
Yeah, well, the buck stops with the manager, and that's what we mentioned. Regardless of what club it is, you are judged by your results, and you also look at the reaction from the fans, and they are not happy. Hugh Scott says, Peter, I was shocked at how poor Motherwell were last night. They've been on a downward spiral since Tony Watt left, so it's going to be a long, old season for them. Listen, game by game now, he's walking a tightrope. And he needs the game on Sunday against St Mirren like a hole in the head.
I think it's the worst possible preparation for the start of a league campaign because you're on the back foot immediately. I think there's no grace. I think if there's a poor result on Sunday, I think the pressure simply intensifies.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's get into the predictions, because I might as well go down that road first before we start to get into the meat and bones of managers and players who've been speaking to us. But nevertheless, the predictions always gets people a chance to, batter us with a baseball bat, Ali. So
I've missed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Ruffy, your predictions for the League 1 to 12, here it is. Talk us through it. Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Aberdeen, Hibs, Dundee United, Ross County, Livingston, Motherwell, St Mirren, St Johnstone. You've got Kilmarnock to be relegated. It's early days.
It is early days. As I said, sometimes I do that because we played them, in the Premier Sports. I wasn't particularly impressed. The big strong side have taken a lot of strength in the boy Power and the boy Connolly for Motherwell. They've got the big boy for Aberdeen at the back, big centre half. Kyle Lafferty. Will he score goals in the Premiership the way they scored them in the Championship? Yeah. I don't know. The backup to that's Ollie Shaw. I just find that we saw a lot of teams coming up for the Championship, and if they don't really strengthen the way Hearts did, when they come up, I think they'll struggle. I really do. But for me, I keep saying every year, Ross County, not this year by a million miles.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with them last year. I was so impressed by the players that Malky brought up for England, and he's just kept doing it. So I expect a lot for them. I expect them to push into the top six.
Yeah, I ran into a couple of people who obviously sent me messages as well, who are Ross County fans, who watch the programme religiously, and obviously they were giving you it tight last season. They weren't happy with you. But this change is nauseating, to say the least about it. There's something afoot, by the way. Either a car has been given to him, or he's got a weekend up in Dingwall Alley. But nevertheless, let's have a look at your 12, Alison, because Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Aberdeen in 4th place, Hibs, Dundee United, Ross County, Kilmarnock, Livingston, St Mirren. You've got Motherwell in the playoff and St Johnstone to be relegated.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of St Johnstone, and I think they'll struggle. I think they're a team that just do not have goals in them, and again, a bit like Motherwell, I think just the way the season finished, you're almost on the back foot immediately. I know they've brought in players, but I think it still looks quite disjointed. I don't know that they're a team that will ever score a lot of goals. Motherwell, I think, will toil, and we've done these predictions at the start of the week.
Yeah.
It's not on the back of last night's exit. Again, I just think they look like a team in freefall. I think they need to be very, very careful, because I think if they continue in the same vein, I really think they're in danger of going down.
Yeah, okay. Here's my 1 to 12 on the basis of just right at the start of the season. Celtic to win the league, Rangers in that runners-up position, Hearts, I've got Dundee United in 4th, Aberdeen in 5th, Aberdeen made top 6, Kilmarnock I've got in 6th position because I like Derek McInnes. I think he's certainly capable of guiding them mid-table. Hibs, I think the loss of McGeady for 2 or 3 months could be a blow as well. Livingston, Ross County, Motherwell in 10th position, and then St Mirren and St Johnstone. I think those 3 will be battling it out at the bottom end, because I've seen nothing from the recruitment to suggest otherwise. I probably, if I was doing it now, I might put Motherwell playoff or bottom, but they'll need to get their act together. Alan Burrows has got some big decisions to make with that board on the future of Graham Alexander, but last night was just embarrassing, and quite a number of people said, oh no, wait a minute, there's some good results from the League of Ireland. I'm sorry, Motherwell's budget, even with the constraints of a board run by the supporters, is way above what Sligo can do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the only thing they can say in their favour is that they're halfway through their season, and they're up to speed. But Motherwell had more than ample time. They weren't playing in the Premier Sports. They had more than ample to get games under their belt. I don't know why they never arranged more games than what they did. So maybe they just treated them so lightly. Obviously, they must have had them watched. I mean, they're no easy teams anymore, but you would think with the quality Motherwell's got, they should have won that.
Well, with all due respect, I mean, at the tail end of last season, Graham Alexander made some strange decisions when I was watching them. He doesn't fancy Stephen O'Donnell, so he's dropped to Scotland international on more than a few occasions. And he's brought in Paul McGinn, and McGinn wasn't any great shakes last night. I thought most of the players, their distribution was terrible. Listen, we could go on about it, but well done to Sligo, and good luck to Sligo in the Europa Conference League. But for Scotland, that's one club down. I wonder how many clubs will still be playing European football out with Celtic, Rangers and Hearts by the time we get to the end of the qualifiers. It's a long way to go, and a few more agonising nights, no doubt. But fingers crossed, Rangers and Celtic and Hearts can put a few positive results up there for us to get heartened by. Okay, what about, as well as the predictions, tell us what you think. Who's going to win the league? Who's getting relegated? We'd love to hear from you on that. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. There's lots of special guests coming in to the studio that I hope you'll enjoy, one-to-ones, and we'll have more than a few competitions. We should have competitions, actually, just to see how many different golf jerseys you're going to wear throughout the year, Ruffy, because every day there's a different jersey. Your wardrobe must be just, is it colour coordinated, or are you
No, it's just to open the door. It's just a haul, because fortunately just now I've been doing golfing holidays, so that's why my good lady buys me some tops after the golf.
Yeah, okay, there you are, Ali. That's what it's all about. I go on holiday, Ali, and buy various t-shirts, but Ruffy gets golf ones. So anyway, let's see how far that goes throughout the season, how long it'll last. Yeah.
You don't want to see my yellow trousers.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, apart from anything else, before we talk about the actual games that are coming up this weekend, there's lots of stuff. Lots of stuff that we have got to discuss with the matches being played, but a couple of little breaking stories that are coming out there. One of them is from from this week's scorelines. Celtic, the champions before they even unfurl the flag, will be boosted by the revenue that's coming in, because Maccabi Haifa's result in Europe means that I think Celtic are getting an extra, just close to £1 million in the money they're going to earn from the Champions League and being in the group stages, Ali. It's already at around about 40 million. So depending on the results, this could be a really lucrative year for Celtic.
Yeah, I think so. And what it does is it eases any kind of pressures around the club of not having to sell to offset failure to get into the group stages of the Champions League. I think that there's an assured financial sum going into the club. I think it's substantial. I think it'll be the biggest amount that will ever come in. I think if you had to add up all the revenue that Celtic will bring in over the course of the year with season ticket money and sales for the Champions League, I think Celtic will probably bank in excess of £100 million this season through the finances. It's an incredible sum for a Scottish club, and I think it's imperative that if you have access to those kind of resources, obviously the wage bill is still fairly high annually, but I think you try and invest it as much as you possibly can into the playing structure and the infrastructure of the club, that you sustain your progress going into European football, that you make sure that you're a perennial in that competition. Yeah,
listen, that's because Olympiacos were knocked out of European competition, and they're now going into the Europa League, but that's a real bonus, a huge bonus for Celtic. Over and above that, I still think maybe 2, possibly 3 players they might be looking at before that window closes, Ruffy. He's still going to try, and he's obviously highlighted, Ange Postecoglou, that Ayeti's going to be going out the door. We expect Christopher Julian to leave believe. I just looked there at Celtic have rejected a bid from Toulouse for Stephen Welsh. They wanted him on loan with a £3.5 million option to buy him, but Ange Postecoglou said no. But there are others that will still be heading out the door, and I think 2 or 3, or is that too many?
Well, no, I think 2 or 3 will go out the door. There's no doubt about that. But
I'm talking about coming in.
Yeah, but the money they'll pull in for the ones going out the door will obviously be used to bring anybody coming in. I think it's good that Rangers and Celtic are now getting back to. I mean, I know a 5 million, a 6 million, a 7 million pound player doesn't mean he's going to be that kind of player, but they're in a financial state now that they're prepared to pay the 6 million for Jota. They're prepared to pay 5 million for a fullback, you know. And I think if you get the quality that goes with the price, then it can only be good for the club. So interesting times ahead for the Old Firm fans. Yeah,
as well as that huge financial boost that Celtic have got, Ange Postecoglou likes to get things done early. Are you surprised by their stance on Stephen Welsh? I actually think he's started to really get better and better over the course of the last 12 months.
I'm not surprised, just given the fact that Carl Starfelt is injured and Jens that they've just brought in has also picked up an injury. I think Stephen Welsh will start on Sunday against Aberdeen. I think he'll probably partner Cameron Carter-Vickers. So I'm not surprised. I think it might have been different had the circumstances been different with other personnel. I'm not sure that Celtic would want to commit to an option to buy either. I think he's still a young player. I think he has shown in glimpses that he's has an involvement at the first team level. And I think the starting jersey will be his for now. I think when Carl Starfelt comes back and is fully fit, it might be a different question, but I would anticipate that he starts the season.
Yeah, I think Ange Postecoglou is desperate for the team to get off to a really good start. He has mentioned as well, Ruffy, that Mikey Johnson's going to possibly go out on loan as well. He needs to play elsewhere.
Yeah, I would like to think Mikey Johnson's been champing the door and saying, look, I'm doing my best, I can't force myself into your team, let me go and play somewhere, but I certainly wouldn't be letting him go. I just think he's got something, I don't know what it is, but any time he's given a chance, he come on in one of the semi-finals of the Cups, and for the first half hour he was magnificent.
Yeah,
and
I think injuries have set him back.
Yeah, the just end product just seemed to fail him a wee bit, so maybe he needs that regular football to get the confidence fulfilling the quality that he's got.
Yeah, I think Hibs are a stick on to at least make a call.
Well, when you look at what's happened to Aidan McGeady, I think it would be a very obvious call to make. I think it would suit both parties. I think Mikey Johnson's not going to get regular first team football at Celtic this season. When you look at the quality of the players that are in front of him, I think he'll struggle. He's 23, he needs to go and play football, he needs to be playing on a regular basis, and I think it would suit both parties for him to go to Easter Road in the wake of Aidan McGeady's injury. If it's not Easter Road, I think it doesn't really matter where he goes. I think he's at an age and a stage of his career he has to be playing on a regular basis.
Yeah, a little bit of news coming out of Celtic that Ian Bankier is to retire as Celtic chairman from January 2023. You know, do you know what I love about you, Ali? You can read my mind, because I said to you over a year ago, I can see the way this plan is all hatching out. We've had the chief executive leaving under I wouldn't say a cloud, but certainly a lot of angry fans at the way Celtic capitulated and Rangers stopped 10 in a row. Talking of course about Peter Lawwell, and I said to you that he's a stick-on for the chairman, and in January if somebody else comes in other than Peter Lawwell, I'll be gobsmacked.
I would agree with you, and I think this may not be a popular opinion, but I think it would be a sensible move. I think he still knows the club. I think his business acumen has helped to put Celtic where they are just now in terms of the foundations that are there behind the club. I think it is a sensible move, and like you, that's who I would, if I was putting my mortgage on anything, that's the move that I would be making too.
But he's still there, isn't he? He's still in the games, he's still behind the scenes, and
he's still aboard. He's still
there, so he's still.
He's just keeping his head down. Yes, this is the quietest I've ever witnessed him in a long period of time since he started in 2003 or came back to the club.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be quiet in the boardroom.
Yeah,
I think there'll still be big decisions get made, and he'll be at the front of them.
I think it's very interesting. I think it was probably just about a year ago, 11 months ago, when the Dominic Mackay situation came to a head and his tenure ended very prematurely, and I think further changes were anticipated all around that time. So I think the only real surprise is that it's taken quite so long to get here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, that's Celtic against an Aberdeen side. Now, various people have mentioned that Aberdeen have made some really good signings. I am going to wait till I go and see them. I'm going to go up to Pittodrie next week and have a look at them and see exactly how those signings are going to play out, because I think more often than not, you have to go to games to see the game, over the 90 minutes to get a greater understanding of it. I'm not looking at him, but I'm throwing a grenade his way.
I think what you've sensed this summer at Aberdeen is maybe an optimism that was gone last term, just with the way that the campaign played out. I think the sale of Calvin Ramsey and Lewis Ferguson is aided the players that have come in. Jim Goodwin's had money to go and say, let's try and overhaul the squad, let's try and make changes, bring in players. Off the top of my head, is it 6 or 7 that have come in? Let's try and give it an entirely new look. I would agree with you. I think you can't really judge it until you see it in action. You see how it's knitted together and whether or not the players have gelled. I think it's a hard game for them on Sunday. It's a difficult place to go to Celtic Park when the party's set almost for Celtic, when there's a great anticipation on Ange Postecoglou's side coming out and starting the season very solidly. But I think over the course of the next few weeks you'll get an indication of just what they've got to offer.
Yeah, listen, we need a strong Aberdeen. They need to get out of the traps flying. They need some positivity about them, but I don't see it coming on Sunday. I think they'll lose 3-1. That's my prediction. Ali?
I think I went for 3-0, although I was wavering to 3-1.
Yeah, Aberdeen, Ruffy, David Bates was supposed to be going to Legia Warsaw. That deal's collapsed. He's on his way back to Pittodrie. He was there for the medical. Something happened. We'll get greater clarity on that tomorrow, but he's heading back there. Whether he's going out somewhere else before that window closes, only Jim Goodwin knows.
Yeah, well, obviously he's not in Jim Goodwin's plans that he wouldn't allow him to go. Okay, they were getting some money for him, but I don't think he was a fit when he came in. I don't think he's done anything exciting that you would want him to be a regular in that side. I think you have to move on and give other people a chance. I think Aberdeen, beginning of the season, you always give it a good account of yourself in the first game. So I've went for 2-0 Celtic. I think they will eventually break them down as they usually do and then get the second goal. But I think, as you said, I don't think Aberdeen can afford, a 3 or 4 game without winning or going on some kind of run, because the fans are still smarting for the end of last year. Just weren't happy about it at all. This was used to be an Aberdeen side that was splitting the Old Firm, and they're miles away from that. So they have to show their fans now that they could be a number 3 ahead of Hearts. But we'll have to wait and see if that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you can give us your prediction on that. That's Celtic against Aberdeen. Of course, the early kick-off for Rangers is against Livingston, 12 o'clock on Saturday. Bob White says, any comments on Rangers' potential earnings for 2022, European finals, potential Champions League group stage, season ticket sales, and of course the sale of players. I think Bob makes a very good point, because we were talking about the money that could come in at Celtic. There's certainly a lot of money that Rangers will be looking at, and I think, we now know that they've got, if they can get past Union, then there are 4 clubs that potentially wait them in this next playoff. You couldn't rule Rangers out getting to the group stages as well, because they've been flying the flag, and strongly over the last 2 or 3 years, Alison.
I think you would count on Rangers to make it through to the group stages of the Champions League purely on the back of what they've done across the breadth of the last 2 or 3 seasons in European football. Certainly, I think there'll be no teams wanting to play them. I think they've got a reputation now as a very solid European side. I think there's an expectancy among the support. I also think there's a confidence and an assurance about the squad, about the players, about being comfortable on that stage, about the platform not fazing anyone. I think some of the scalps that they've taken across the last few seasons will have given them a tremendous confidence, and I think Rangers should be in the group stages. I think I would fully expect them to make it all the way through and go into the group stages.
Yeah, Ruffy, do you share that view?
Yeah, I do. I think Rangers now have got a European arena at Ibrox, as Celtic have at Parkhead. They've got the European night about them, and any club coming there, I think, would be anxious. As Ali said, the results and the scalps that they've taken. So they've won themselves massive bonus points, obviously, we get into the final. So any team that gets drawn against them, it's a worry, because you're going to look at these results, and that's what you do. When you get drawn against a team, you see the success they've got and the teams that they've beaten, and Rangers have certainly done that.
Yeah, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst says he's happy with his squad and he believes they're in a better space now than when he took charge in November of last year. Now that's the manager's assessment, because he's looked at it, he's obviously inherited a really good squad from Steven Gerrard, but he wants to put his own imprint on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think he'd done that towards the end, you know, the team selections he's had. Now, I know he's lost a couple of players and he's brought some players in. He's certainly strengthened the quality of the side. I'd be interested to see what his best 11 is, you know, because he's lost two of his starting 11, you know, and it'd be interesting to see the guys that he's brought in, if they are automatic choices or whether they'll just be part of the quality of the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. What about this Livingston side that Rangers are coming up against? David Martindale, he's lost a couple of players along the way. Obviously, he wants to try and replicate what they achieved last season. I'd be curious to see how Livingston fare this season, if they can reach those heady heights of mid-table again and looking to try and get top six.
I think they're a stubborn side to play against. I think they make life difficult for teams, especially on their own patch. I think we can talk all day about playing on the plastic surface and whether or not it should be allowed in the top flight, but ultimately it works for them in terms of making life very hard for teams that they come up against. I think there's an industry about them. I think they work their socks off. I think you get a sense of camaraderie about Livingston. I think you sense that they're playing for one another, and I think they're always very difficult to beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Rangers have learned their lesson, as a lot of the big clubs have. When they go to Livingston, there's a style of play that they've got to do. They've got to rip up, you know, what the usually style of play is and adapt to the conditions and the way that Livingston throw everything at you. So I think they've all had their fingers burnt down at Livingston, and I think they've gained in that experience. So they generally go there now and are quietly confident of winning the game eventually, because Livingston do make you work for a win, and I think Rangers will win eventually again, and I'm going to go 2-0 Rangers. Yeah,
I think Rangers will win this by 3 goals. I'm going to go 3-0. I think that, you know, Rangers, on the basis of what they achieved last year, it could have been the ultimate with the Europa League win. I think a lot of Rangers fans will eventually reflect on that the way Celtic fans look at the run to Seville is just a fabulous European run with some great memories. Whether they can actually replicate that over a period of time again in Europe, who knows? But this one, I think, with both sides that were neck and neck last season, Ali, is it going to be just as tight? Giovanni Van Bronckhorst now saying they want to win that title back.
Yeah, I don't think you would expect any less. I think it will be very tight. I don't think there's much between the two of them at all. I think if you to assess both squads, I think Celtic, I think, carry real menace from middle to front. I think you see that they've got goals in them. They when it clicks and they move as one, I think it can be devastating for other teams. But I think defensively, there's still a question mark over them. Rangers, I think, have scouted and signed well. I think the players that they've brought in, I think, look like quality additions. I honestly think it'll be neck and neck, and I think, as we say often at this point in the season, I think it will come down to the games between the two of them.
Yeah, I disagree with Alison on that, just basically because I think sometimes, you know, you have to look at other teams that are capable of landing the odd sucker punch, and that's usually, I think that caught Rangers out last season.
Well, you're looking at Hearts at Tynecastle. Nobody can be confident enough to go there if they're playing well. It's always an environment you struggle to play in. So if you're looking for kind of upsets, you're looking at Aberdeen being better than what last year. You're looking at Hibs being better than what they are, because going to Easter Road and going to Pittodrie were always banana skins.
Yeah.
You know, so it really depends whether they get their act together. As far as the others are concerned, I just can't see any improvement at all. I think there's going to be 6 teams down in that bottom 6 for the long season.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we'll kick off this season. You already have teams looking. I mean, we live in a world of spin now, but everybody talks about, you know, it's a great league. I love the playoffs. It's great. The top 6 middle, you know, want to finish mid-table thing. There's financial rewards I get from it, but is it as exciting when you've got 7 or 8 teams, Ali, who automatically will kick off this season just saying, make sure you avoid relegation? You know, you've got Killie boss Derek McInnes. That's his first and foremost, his main mantra.
Yeah, I think so, and yeah, I think the real problem is too, I think sometimes when you get to the split and you go into a top 6 and a bottom 6, and you think that when you look at the points tally, 7th in the table could have eclipsed 5th or 6th. I think that's always a problem. But I think in terms of ambition, I think you want to hear teams say we want to challenge. That's why it's, you know, it's a breath of fresh air when you hear someone from Hearts say we want to go and push for the title, we want to go and split Celtic and Rangers. Whether or not it's a viable option or a realistic option is another question. But I think if you're in that dressing room, if you're in the club, I think your aim has got to be the very best that you can be. You want to be going out and you want to be as aggressive as possible and being fearless, almost going and having a faith in your own ability and a faith in being able to go and play. Because I think when you take away maybe 3 or 4 sides, I think there's a real level where so many teams are eachy-peachy, where they're so, you know, there's very, very little between them.
I wouldn't even go, I mean, yeah, absolutely, possibly 5 or 6, and then you've got that 3 or 4 who might always look and say, well, we can be 4th, 5th and 6th. And on the evidence of Motherwell.
See, although I've got Kilmarnock down there, I would just like to chip in by there's been a lot of investment.
Hold on, it's not the end of the show. You changed your mind?
No, I'm just saying there's a lot of investment at Kilmarnock. I think Billy Bowie and the board of directors have really tidied up the place. There's a lot of investment behind one of the goals. It was active when we were there. Brand new boxes right along. Inside Kilmarnock, if you get a chance to go in, it's spectacular. The way they've done it inside, it's all lit up in blue. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked as if they were trying out a standing area behind one of the goals.
Yeah, well, we'll have a look at that over the weekend, Ruffy.
Great.
You've got 2-0, I've got 3-0 Rangers. What have you got?
I think I have 2-0 Rangers.
2-0 Rangers, okay. So that's both halves of Glasgow taken care of as far as the games over the weekend. Here are the fixtures at the weekend. There are still games that we want to talk about and get your thoughts on. Livingston Rangers, St Johnstone Hibs, Kilmarnock Dundee United, Hearts against Ross County, St Mirren Motherwell on the Sunday, as well as Celtic against Aberdeen with that 4:30 kick-off. Callum McGregor will unfurl the championship flag, and then it's all systems go. As far as I'm going to go to Tynecastle, Ruffy, to see Hearts against Ross County. Got a wee flavour of Malky Mackay, and I think the team that will almost certainly finish third for me, I've got Hearts in there again, because I think he's made some good purchases.
Yeah, I think so as well. I don't know how his recruitment is down in England. Obviously Malky was down there himself for a long time. He's bound to have a few contacts, and whoever's indicating the recruitment hasn't let him down. I can't remember a bad signing that he's had, and he's added another 3 or 4 to it, so we'll have to wait and see if they're as good as the ones that they had. But certainly Ross County, not particularly away from home, but at home you would always think there's a wee slip up round the corner when you go there, because they make it hard for you. But there are lots of games at the weekend, and we're talking about what we think, but there'll be a lot of teams out there saying, look, a lot of people have written us off. Let's start the season with a win, you know, and then move on from there. And this isn't one of the games, but the other ones that we're going to talk about are, I expect Hearts to win as well. I'm going to go 2-0 again.
Yeah, I've got 2-0 for that one, Ali. But the one thing I was going to say to you is I wonder if Hearts, with that guaranteed group stage European football, will that really put the strains on them over the course of the winter months?
Yeah, I think it is. It can be quite demanding on your squad to try and compete on 2 fronts. I think it can be quite gruelling at times when you've got so many games, particularly this season when you've got the World Cup coming in November. So between now, the season starting now and the break in November, I think it's an incredibly fraught schedule of games. I think there's very few free midweeks other really than international, week, so I think it is quite a lot for squads to cope with if you've not got a bit of depth there.
Yeah. What are you going for?
I think I have 2-1.
2-1 to Hearts?
I think so.
Okay. Kilmarnock, Dundee United, Ruffy's got them relegated. It's funny you saying that, because here's Derek McInnes obviously relaying the fact that there's only one real ambition that he's got for Killie this season.
We just want to make sure that we're not involved in the relegation fight, because a lot of good clubs have been involved in that over the years. Our club itself a couple of years ago got involved in that, thought maybe had the benefit of the playoffs, didn't deal with that and end up in the championship. So it shows you how tight it can be.
Well, he waited a while, he got in at Kilmarnock, and he's got them out of that division into the Premiership. I think Derek is a shrewd cookie. I think Kilmarnock will be difficult to beat this season with him in charge.
I would agree with you. I think he's a very experienced manager. He knows the league, he knows the players he's got, he knows the players that he's up against. I think he's been quite cute there, just saying that his remit is to avoid relegation. I think he'll expect much more from Kilmarnock, and I think he's right to expect more. I think they'll do all right. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll not be dragged in to the relegation fight, and I think he is a good manager. I think, and I also think he raised the club a bit when he arrived last season, just on the back of what had been quite a difficult few months. I think he came in and just lifted the place a wee bit again. But yeah, I think they'll be fine this season. Yeah,
that's got the makings of a good game, Ruffy, against Dundee United, because Dundee United, despite the Stephen Fletcher's agent constantly in a battle with Tam McManus over whether he was going to Hibs or whether he wanted to go or not, which is petty to say the least, suck it up and get on with it. But Dundee United do have some really good players, and I think Fletcher could be a real handful.
Yeah, he's got all the experience of down in England, and I was absolutely shocked when he left. I just couldn't get my head around that. Obviously managers see different things. I thought last year at Dundee United he'd brought all these young boys in.
You're talking of course about Tam Coates.
Yeah. I was absolutely surprised when he moved, but he seems that kind of guy. He's not going to be in the one place at the one time, and obviously I don't know what the offer was over there, but I thought, my immediate thought was there was things going on behind the scenes, that he wasn't happy with the way the club were going, and he just went, I'm going to go somewhere else. But that doesn't seem to be the case. He seems to have moved because of his footballing career to enhance that as a manager. Yeah. So no, I was impressed with Dundee United last year. Again, it's a tricky one, but as far as Kilmarnock's concerned, they just have to be better than St Motherwell and St Johnstone.
Yeah, but you don't think they will be?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm only going on the evidence of us playing them. I'm only going on what I saw that night, and unless he brings another 2 or 3 players in.
Marlon's just said, Stephen Fletcher's been playing football longer than I've been alive, and I'm 39. It does.
What year was it Celtic were going for them, but they wouldn't pay the other $500,000 in January?
I think that must have been about 7 years ago, was it not? Was it not Ronnie Tyler?
It's probably longer ago.
Was it? Maybe more? Yeah. Was he not at Sunderland at the time?
He was at Sunderland.
Yeah, it could be about 5 or 6 years, Ruffy. I thought he would have been a good buy then.
8 years ago.
Longer, yeah.
I think it's about 8.
Yeah, we'll need to check that out, Ali. But nevertheless, listen, he's still kicking a ball. I think that was Marlon. Marlon's not his real name, to be perfectly honest with you, but nevertheless, I thought I'd read it out. But nevertheless, he's there. Killie against Dundee United, what have you got there?
I've gone 1 each.
Yeah.
Because there will be a kick-start of the season at Kilmarnock. The place will be a buzz, there'll be a big crowd. As I said, the place is spanking. I would think they'd be good enough to get a draw in the first game.
Yeah, I've got 1 each as well.
1 for a draw too.
Oh, have you? Mm-hmm. Well, you see, this is bang out of order. we can't.
He's just copying us. He's not
just
done
about to say we can't be hedging our bets, but he's calling them first. We can't be hedging our bets this early on. I'm not hedging my bets with St Johnstone. I've got them going down. They're taking on the Hibs. I think Callum has got a doubly difficult job this time. So I just don't see. Obviously, Dre Wright has gone back there, and he's made a few signings that he's hoping that can transform them. My only problem is I don't. They'll be probably tougher at the back, but I can't see where the goals are coming from.
No, I quite like to look at the boy Graham Carey. They've brought in Theo Blair as well, but like you, they don't look like a team who have goals in them. They really don't, and I think they'll toil.
Yeah, Ruffy?
Yeah, I think they are going to toil, but I think they're going to win at the weekend.
Yeah?
That's my sort of
Against Hibs?
Yeah, it's my sort of...
That's unusual. You've never usually started off with predicting your old team to lose.
I think I need to get in quick with points, because Ali went away ahead too quickly last year and we couldn't catch her. So I'm going to go 2-1 St Johnstone.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2.
I'm not impressed with Hibs at all.
No, I'm going to go 2-1 Hibs, even though I think it's a real blow. I mean, we're all putting 2 and 2 together and suggesting that they're going to go for Mikey Johnson. Celtic might look and say to themselves, look, we've given Liam Scales to Aberdeen, we're not giving Mikey Johnson to Hibs. Who knows? Even if they're interested in him, I think it would be a perfect move for Hibs because of the blow of McGeady.
Yeah, I think we're maybe just putting 2 and 2 together. I think, you're looking at it from a logical standpoint and thinking you've lost a very experienced winger in Aidan McGeady, and I think that's a huge blow for Hibs because I think you would have expected big things from McGeady. I think he's still got a tremendous amount of quality and ability. I think it's a massive blow for him to be out for the start of the season. I think Mikey Johnson's a player who needs to go out on loan. He needs to go and get game time. Hibs now clearly have an opening for a winger to go in the short-term basis. So even if it was only a loan move until Christmas and then you re-evaluate it, I think it would make sense from so many points of view.
Like Peter yesterday, I hope he stays up here because we want to see all our best players up here. And I know if he goes to another team, that means when Celtic plays them, he can't play against them. You know, so that's the way I wouldn't be surprised if Scott Brown might take him because Scott will know. You know what he's done at Celtic. Yeah,
you never know. One thing is for certain, I've got Hibs to win 2-1, but St Johnstone, and backing that up, Cammy McPherson has mentioned that he's just hoping that St Johnstone can get off to a flyer this season.
We're at home. We feel as if we're in a bit of a good place. We'll see what happens on Saturday, but hopefully we can get the 3 points, go off to a flyer.
Yeah, need to do that. If they can get a confidence-boosting win, suddenly, they're in a better place. Whether they can do that or not, I'm not so sure. But nevertheless, and suddenly we've already discussed Celtic Aberdeen. Suddenly we're looking at on the Sunday, St Mirren against Motherwell. Ruffy, what a tough one to call now because we've got Stephen Robinson there. A million questions will have been fired at him this morning about his old club, but he's got to worry about St Mirren. Have you seen enough from them?
No, I haven't seen anything at all. I mean, you look at the results in the Premier Sports, haven't been impressive at all, and it's 2 teams. It's amazing to say, not under extreme pressure, but they need a win. One of them needs a win, to take the pressure off of each other. But as Tam Cowan always says, every time Motherwell are struggling, they come up against an old foe. And obviously the St Mirren manager, ex-Motherwell, and that's the games they tend not to win. So I'm sitting on the fence in that one. I'm going to go 1 each. Yeah, it's strange though, when you look back, hindsight is a wonderful thing, Ali, but Stephen Robinson decided enough was enough. He said he could see the ceiling limit with Motherwell and what he could achieve. And since then, you have Graham Alexander. It really hasn't set the heather on fire with them. So something's got to give. And even when it does give for Motherwell, if they do change their manager, you wonder what leeway he will have even in a short window to change it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think what you're seeing is both teams starting the season under pressure, which is never ideal. Mm-hmm. I think you're almost, before you've kicked a ball in the league, there's almost an atmosphere of negativity around the club. I think people are looking at the manager's position. That's the questions. That'll have been every question today in the build-up to the opening of the campaign is surrounding the manager, surrounding whether or not Graham Alexander's still going to be there in the long term. I think it's not the best preparation for a new campaign, for a fresh start. And I think at St Mirren, again, I don't think Stephen Robinson really caught the imagination of the St Mirren fan. I thought results were poor last season. I don't think you saw any real development. I think both managers are under pressure. Graham Alexander more, just because of the manner in which they've gone out of the European football, going out of that against Sligo, and the limpness, I think, of the performance. It just doesn't augur well for a new season.
3 of us I've tried to stay positive on a number of fronts. Celtic and Rangers, there's positivity. There's a few clubs that we've been positive about, but in this one here, I'm going to. Hugh Scott has mentioned there, and I'm going to go with Hugh on this one. I think St Mirren 2-1, and then of course, if he's not gone already over the next 48 hours, then I think he will go after that. The Motherwell manager.
No, not that soon. I don't think.
No.
I think it would have to be 2 or 3 defeats early on before there's a reaction. But certainly, if they lose at the weekend, the fans will let them know.
I think it's
the fans will let them know.
The fans' reaction forces
and then the board will react.
Yeah.
And I think if there's a defeat,
I don't think it's that long. Do you?
No. And I think if there's a defeat on Sunday, then I think what you'll see is a tremendous reaction from the Motherwell fans.
It shows you how fickle it is. If he wins, then he's okay.
I think it buys time.
I don't think
you just move on to the next game, and then you move on to the next one, and then you move on.
Well, I think it is that with sadly for Graham Alexander, I do think that is the case. I think he's on a game by game basis where the Motherwell fans, it's not erratic. It's just the nature of the way they've looked at Motherwell last season and this season. They're looking and thinking, we're not onside with him. If he was suddenly to hit 5 or 6 on the trot, I think suddenly Motherwell fans go, okay, it's a blip, the Sly goal, let's concentrate in the league, fine. But I can't see that. I don't see evidence of it.
I think there's no credit in the bank.
No, you're right.
That's it.
That's what the issue is. And so,
would you love Ruffy as a chairman though? Because Ali, you could have survived. You'd be working for broadsheets and the tabloids, and you'd be doing telly the lot if Ruffy was there. Wouldn't you? It's just unbelievable, isn't it?
We all know nobody likes anybody being sacked.
No,
of course not. But the job is to offer an opinion.
Yeah, but the Carly's right. He's no bonus points anywhere.
Yeah.
That run of 2 wins and is still logged in the Motherwell fans. Last night's game is logged in the memory. Saturday or Sunday's defeat will be logged in the memory, and he's not got any.
No.
He's not got any. All he has is wins, and as I'm saying, if he wins 2 games, he's okay. But he's not okay, because if he loses the next 3, it's going to come back again, and that's the way fans are.
It's also the style of football. I think the way that they've been playing games and going about games, I don't think it's encouraged much support among the Motherwell fans. I don't think they've liked the system that he's played, and I think even when you look at the Sligo game, it can happen. You can go out at this stage of the tournament, but it's a manner of the performance. I think there's a way to lose a tie like that as well. I think even if you'd lost, there would always be grumbles and there would always be criticism. But if you lose and you've dominated the game and you've just not been able to put the ball in the back of the net, or you've been terrifically unlucky, that wasn't the case across both legs. They were well beaten across the tie, and I think that's what will rankle. Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, we hope people are going to go out and follow Scottish football. The one thing about our nation is we are obsessed by the beautiful game, and I hope a lot of clubs are able to offer incentives, especially through the winter months, that get the fans out to the grounds supporting our game. We really need fans out there in great numbers. I hope this Deloitte insight from the 3 or 4 clubs out with Celtic and Rangers, I hope that this proposal somehow comes up with something that will bring more money into the game and to the clubs out with. Glasgow's big too. I have my doubts about it, but fair play to Ron Gordon and others who have taken the bull by the horns to try and come up with some kind of incentive. We need more money into the game to avoid more embarrassments like Motherwell's from last night against Sligo Rovers, but we also want to see investment and allow Scottish players to come through. We like to see homegrown talent. It helps the national side as well. The only downside to it all is, are we in a situation where there is creeping into our game? Certainly down south it's been creeping in, and up here I saw it to the tail end of the season. Just fan misbehaviour. I know that the police chief here in Scotland has voiced his concerns about fan behaviour, people running onto the pitch. We see various social media posts of fans clashing with each other. Is that a worry that we should just try and nip in the bud, Alison? I think it is, and I think nipping in the bud is the expression. I don't think you want it to take root. I think Scottish football has a lot going on in terms of rivalries and in terms of clubs maybe goading and winding one another up, but I think there were scenes last season and maybe the season before that you've not had too often, or certainly you've not had too often in the recent past. I think some of the songbooks last season were the worst I'd heard for many years. I think Celtic and Rangers fans coming up with songs that you thought had long been forgotten. I think we can do without it.
Yeah.
I think you can live without it.
Absolutely. We want to see all the positives. I have to say thank you to so many of you who've been posting messages on our Facebook. It's certainly the healthiest I've actually witnessed, Ruffy. The nutcases must be on holiday. Because it's been populated by people who, I don't mind people having a dig at us, Ruffy. I don't think we can be guilty of being part of this new breed of people who are waiting to be offended. I don't mind people having a kicking at me. No. It's absolutely fantastic.
I don't mind them having a kick at you either.
If you give it out, you've got to be able to take it in. And at least on this show with our pundits, you'll get an opinion. You might not like it. We'll have a bit of fun. We'll interact with people this season, big style. But over the piece, I think today certainly lots of people have just offered their opinion and then had a blast here and there. But if anything, you look at last season, we were talking about the abuse handed out to black players. I was out there as an ambassador for Show Racism, the Red Card, and seen a lot of positivity with young people, Alison, at schools, and how they want to be inclusive and understand and try and spread the word to some of their parents about the need not to be abusive for people that are not the same colour, not the same religion. I saw some great positivity in the work that's being done there. But as you say, I think a lot of clubs have to, really take a stand. I've been impressed with some who, as soon as there's anybody who's out of order, quickly.
Yeah, I think you have to be honest about it. I think you have to be honest at times to accept that it's there. I think Scottish football will always have issues with certain sectarian elements. I think it's always been there. I think it's important to talk about it. I think it's important to address it. I think you want to make your feelings on it fairly clear rather than hiding from it. In terms of the racism instances, you would hope that they are very few and far between in this day and age when there is so much education and even without that, we live our lives hand in hand, hopefully in a multicultural environment. I think our lives are enriched by different cultures and different people coming into it, and you would like to think the bare minimum you expect from people is simple respect.
The good thing about it is most of the good supporters at clubs don't want to see their club affected by it either.
Yeah.
They don't want to see it, their club to be associated.
Yeah, they need to make a stance on it though. Absolutely. And the other thing about it is our gear, whatever we're wearing, will get a kicking. How we look, the hair, you name it, Ruffy. It's all there. I'm quite happy I'm quite happy because it doesn't matter who canes me on here, Ali, with such a huge family, they're never getting through the death shield. It's just, when you're brought up in a household where everybody battered each other every day of the week, you're just never getting through. Nobody's going to break it, Ali. I don't know about yourself. I know you're thick-skinned because of your upbringing.
I think you'd need to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
For any of us sitting here, you need to be quite thick-skinned. Ruffy's just too nice to let anybody
know. Of course, but he's Mr. Softy.
Weekend up, somebody said something bad about me.
Absolutely. And I'll leave you with this thought. Ricky says it's time Ruffy binned the Skechers. It's as simple as that. They're minging. It's honestly, they can walk home on their own. Anyway, apart from that, thanks to Ruffy, thanks to Alison. Do join us on Monday. We'll reflect on all the games that have been played over the weekend. We'll get your thoughts. We'll hear the thoughts of managers and players as well. Thank you for subscribing to PLZ Soccer. If you get a chance, tell your friends. We're back every day, Monday to Friday at 4 o'clock live, or you can watch it at your leisure. And if you subscribe and hit the bell on the notifications, they will give you all the insight into some of our unique content that we'll be posting. And if you download the app, you get all the breaking football stories, north, south, and in Europe, and also across the globe. From myself, Peter Martin, to you, enjoy your football this weekend, go to the games, be sensible and support your team, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Thanks for watching.